world, what's up, guys? This is Dave and Auken on the Fight Bananas podcast, kinda. We'll get into it here in a second. How's everyone doing out there? Oh my goodness, the MMA world is giving us gifts, nuggets of great information, so we can't wait to get started. And I said we. Something that we have been brewing together. There's a code word there. We'll get into it. Taryn Tempel, UFC Fight Pass, Invicta FC. Taryn is a great talent in the MMA industry. Guys, you're going to hear her name a lot going forward. How big Laura Sanko is, I believe, and tenfold that Taryn Tempel will be that big of a superstar in the MMA game. So we're so happy to kind of get her on. This is something we might start doing a lot of. Maybe once a week in the morning, we'll talk about it. So right before we get Taryn on the line, let's thank one of our supporters from day one, N-Steel Nutrition. Check out nsteelnutrition.com. Check out their Joints Is It shoe. Guys, I use it every single day. Getting older, in my mid-30s here, definitely get Joints Is It shoe at nsteelnutrition.com or follow their Instagram page. All right, guys, let's talk with Taryn Tempel. All right, guys, here we go. One of our favorites. I gave you a really big kudos in the intro, so you got to listen to it, Taryn. But we are so happy to have you on Fight Bananas podcast. We do have something brewing in the works. I like that word, brewing. Maybe we'll be doing that more often. But Taryn, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I mean, just hanging out at home these days. But obviously, we're lucky that at least some sports, MMA, is still going on. Everything else is a little bit dire right now, but I'm still enjoying kind of this slow time a little bit, kind of getting a chance to step back and enjoy some family time too. No,
it's good. And I'm a family guy, but oh my goodness, I need the life to get going again. I need to go to Target, and we need to go back out to church. We're missing everything. It was great. But now it's a lot. I don't know about you. I'm definitely ready, especially July 4th. I'm such a July 4th guy. I love July 4th. And here in Florida, a lot of the beaches were closed, and just the gatherings are just not the same. I'm feeling a little down. I'm not going to lie to you, Taryn.
I'm with you on that one. The lucky thing about where I am is that I grew up a big lake person. I mean, I know you understand with multiples, and my parents had the triplets, and then one older brother, that really big vacations were difficult to plan with all of us.
Oh, yeah.
But we would go to the lake a lot. That was kind of our big trip because, that was just a car ride. So now my parents have a house out by the lake, and for 4th of July, we were able to go down there and just, we're still able to social distance from other people outside of our family. So we were able to enjoy the open water, still be out in the sun. So it's the little things like that that give me a bit of a refresher whenever I'm stuck in my apartment for the other 5 days of the week.
And you mentioned it. It takes us like an hour and a half to get all 4 of the kids in the car just to go to Target. Like, we have to pick up, cheese, apple juice, and the latest Blu-ray, and it takes us an hour and a half. It's just, it's madness over here at the Van Auken house. But, okay, so there's so much to get into. But before we do, so Invicta FC, you were there 40, UFC Fight Pass, Masvidal, the BMF, is main evented UFC 251. Life moves at you fast. But I kind of do want to open the curtain up a little bit to all the people listening, kind of say, or a little bit what we're doing. First of all, like here at Fight Bananas, over the last 6 months, we've introduced new podcasts underneath our banner. We have a professional wrestling one, a boxing one, bare knuckle and bruise one, and we're just kind of keep growing and growing. We actually have a bet-in podcast that's been doing really, really good. They actually had a Invicta FC 40 preview, so it's awesome. But there's still something missing. There's still one other little nugget of a podcast missing, and I think probably going forward that you and I, we're going to hit that little nugget, maybe some kind of morning show, very topical, newsy, but very just topical and trendy and just conversation-y. We're on the same page, Taryn?
Absolutely. And, my mom would say that I'm not a morning person, but I think that for this occasion that I could be a morning person. I think we would have a lot of fun with it. Always, as you know, podcasts are definitely the future in my eyes. That's really become, just in the last few years, I've seen podcasts become just more and more and more mainstream, and people love to listen to things while they're going on walks, especially during time like right now, where one of the only things you can go out and do is go on a walk. I never thought I would love walking so much. I thought that was just like an old person thing, but when I go on walks, I just want to listen to podcasts, and of course I love listening to yours, and I love being a part of it whenever I can.
Oh, that's awesome. We appreciate it. Yeah, we're very excited. My whole life, I think one of my, God trickled some dust on me, and one of my probably best, hidden talents is I think I'm really great at seeing talent in fighters, baseball players, whoever it is, any job. Like I worked at a job for 10 years. I'm like, that employee's really good, that employee's not. They're like, yeah. And I remember seeing you probably a year and a half ago doing some stuff with Invicta. And, I had you on the podcast pretty early here at Fight Bananas. And I was like, oh, yep, Taryn Tempel, star. Like, absolute huge star in the MMA world. Like 2 years, 3 years, 5, 10 years from now, like a humongous name. So we're happy to talk to you. And, hopefully we do this in the morning. It's something to do with coffee and cages. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll get there.
I appreciate you saying that. And, I'm still kind of new and everything, but I've been having so much fun, and I've been lucky enough to meet, some really, really awesome people early on. Obviously, Shannon Knapp's such a pioneer in the sport on the women's side, and the production. I started out on the production side. So even just being around the crew, being around everyone, I'm soaking up everything, learning new things every time. And I'm really, really enjoying it. And I've always loved this sport, but to really get to be a part of it in some capacity has been fun. You never really told me, I've told you a little bit about my story, but I never got to find out how you got really interested in MMA.
Ooh, wow, the role reversal here. Okay. Long story short, yeah, just like almost anyone, and especially when you go all in, just a fan, just someone who watched Chuck Liddell and George St. Pierre and that kind of. I miss the Gracie days. I'm not going to say like I remember UFC 1. I don't. Of course, I went back to see it, but in those 40s and 30s and Tito Ortiz and Ken Shamrocks and Ultimate Fighters, like I'm just a teenager and I'm like, whoa, like I like this. This is cool. And, of course, like in anything, just keeps on going and building and building and building. And to be really honest, too, it started with our local gym. And Pete White, I always say this to this guy, like he's literally the day one guy. I've always been a podcast guy myself. I think for a decade, like I liked podcasts before it was cool to like podcasts, and it was always something I wanted to do. It's just really creative. It's a way to communicate. I do like to talk, and I like to talk with different people and new people and learn and just kind of keep on growing as a person. So I was like, okay, I can do this. Let me talk to the local gym, and and then they had two fighters, Anderson Hutchinson and at that time Mike Davis. And Anderson Hutchinson was main event in Titan FC, which is a Florida, based company, and Island Fights, and they're both on UFC Fight Pass. And Mike Davis was, I don't know if you know who Mike is now, UFC superstar. He fought Gilbert Burns on 9 days' notice a year ago. He's just won his first UFC fight. He's down there at American Top Team now. But you just kind of started talking to him, interviewing if you want. And I always thought there's so many of those shows out there, Taryn, like so many like, hey, what do you eat the day of weigh-ins? And I was like, no, I like doing stuff out of left field. I try to be as creative as possible, and I want to talk to him. We've talked to Mike about his favorite movies. He's a big Avengers guy. I'm a big Avengers guy. So every podcast, Thanos does come up. It's just what we talk about. So, and it just I guess the rest is history. But one thing you said, too, that really rang with me was how you're working behind the scenes a little bit. That's what's so cool. What I love about MMA and the MMA business and the fight game, There's so much. I even once in a while help with calling people trying to like match make fights. I've helped people, in the back for training, just anything, setting stuff up. I've been to a ton of events in the last year, especially 2019 before, COVID and 2020 and all that. But it's just kind of, anywhere you're really needed, you just kind of put your hand out there and help. And then the rest is history. Yeah, and it's awesome. It's so cool. I was going to kind of say some kind of joke about the world and how it's small. I just looked at the downloads because it was June just ended. And it's like, to me, when I see thousands of downloads in another country, I think it was Australia. It was like our number one country other than America. And I'm like, wow, like people are listening to usually me and a guest, right? But like thousands of people, Australians, are listening to the show. I'm like, that's what I love about podcasts probably the most. It makes the world really, really small. I talk to fighters in 30 different states, and it's just really cool. It's just kind of bringing everyone home. It's bringing everyone back to this Fight Bananas little umbrella, and we're rolling. We really are. It's exciting.
That was the craziest thing to me. I remember when I first did my very first Invicta event a little over a year ago, because, I was just freshly into the business, fresh out of college, working at a sports network here in Kansas, and I'm also from Western Kansas. So, I'm used to a very small world. I didn't go on my first flight until I was a teenager. And so my very first Invicta fight, there's Invicta fans all across the world. And to see people, posting on Instagram and following me on Twitter, tagging me in things, that was so cool to me to see the impact that something here in Kansas is having all across the world, and getting to be a small part of that was a really cool kind of first step into the MMA side for me. So I completely agree with you there.
Yeah. And it's pretty awesome. I never thought it would, because I'm usually not that guy, but like when someone reaches out to me through Instagram, right? I'm at David Van Auken, and people will reach out and be like, great show, or, I kind of, like I said, I like, I do list, and I kind of say, hey, what happened to this? And it's like someone will be like, dude, that's cool. I've never heard that before. I hope that happens, or I like what you did there. And it's just like, awesome. It's like, I don't know this person. Like, this person didn't, out of their day, they reached out to me through Instagram, and it's like, sometimes there are some negative people on Twitter and Instagram, but that's life. But it is really cool to get that positive reinforcement. But like you said, from different states, countries, I don't know where they're from. It's amazing how far of a reach podcast has nowadays.
Yeah, especially in the MMA world, because there's just so many different stories and backgrounds from all of these fighters from all across the world. And what I love about MMA is that every fighter that I've met has a really interesting story. And people, you don't just get into fighting just on, some people, I guess, on a whim. But there's not a lot of people that are willing to put their bodies and their minds on the line like that. You have to have a special instinct. So to kind of learn what makes each individual athlete tick has been really cool to see as I've met more and more along the way in this first year.
Yeah, I love that too. I couldn't agree anymore. And not even that, it's funny how the fight community is such a family. It's amazing how they have your backs. We have twin girls that were born on New Year's Eve, and when we had back in the day when there was parties, remember that, Taryn, when people used to get together and people used to see each other? We had, I know, what is it called when, a gender reveal. We had a gender reveal party. And I look around the party, and like half the people here are fighters or from the fight community. I'm like, this is awesome. And on birthdays, and I put a picture up of the girls, or just when life is down. Like, I hear others, sometimes more than my immediate family, I hear from the fight family. Hey, Dave, hope you're doing good. Hey, I saw the pictures. That's awesome. Whatever. I'm like, it's when you're in, like, it's Robert De Niro in that movie with Ben Stiller. Like, when you're in that circle, like, you're in the circle. It's a really cool, tight knit family, I think.
I agree. I've been overwhelmed with the support, and just every week, just new people, meeting people that are just in that community and are passionate about the sport. And so it's been really fun just meeting new people and learning so much more. I gotta ask though, how did you do your gender reveal? Did you do a piñata, balloons, cake? What was your...
Okay. So we have two older boys, an 8-year-old, now he's 8, and a 3-year-old. And we're super into baseball, especially T-ball. My oldest son, Colin, great T-ball player. I was the coach for 2-3 years. So the other half of our friends and family of the kids are all part of our T-ball team. So of course, with 2, and our youngest son is literally the next Ken Griffey Jr. If you get that reference, you're welcome. So we had 2 tees, and the ball were in the color, right? And so my wife had to know. Like, we even went early. We paid. It's one of those things. It's like $150. But at that time, I'm like, why would you pay $150? Just wait 10 more days. But then what's $150 in the long way of life? My wife wanted to know. So happy wife, happy life. And so she knew. And I wanted to wait with the boys. Because it's so weird how, they get it, but I feel like they don't get it still, now, and the girls are 6 months, and sometimes, they put on the Netflix show Trolls for them, like, oh, the girls want to watch it. It's like, oh, I love you boys, and sometimes they run right over them. They don't even know they exist. So, my oldest son was really, really intrigued, and he was so excited to see what they were going to be. And I think he definitely wanted one to be a girl. So I waited with the boys. The boys hit the balls full of pink powder, and that's when I knew, and the rest of our family and friends knew. So, yeah, it was the boys hitting the balls off the tee. That's how we knew.
That's a good one. I've seen some people do that. I've also see some people where they have their spouse throw the ball to them, and I've seen some swings and misses. So I think it's good that you decided to do it off of the tee and to save some problems.
And if there was one, I could maybe see that, but 2, that would be a lot of pressure. If I miss one, I'm still 50%. I'm still hitting better than Derek Jeter. But that, if one drops, I'm a bad guy. So. It's been crazy. It has been they're New Year's Eve babies. And then especially with 2020 and how the world is and closing, and our daycares were closed and schools were closed, and it's been a wild year. Talking about wild, let's get into it, and then we'll go back to more life talk. That's what the show's gonna be about. So far, I think we're killing it. It is. It's just gonna be very open dialogue, banter back and forth, but. UFC 251 and Fight Island has been such a big, intriguing lore, and I think because it was when we were at our lowest lows and UFC cards were getting canceled, and we weren't sure what we're going to see and what's going to happen and all of this. And Dana White's like, "Hey, I'm going to buy an island. I'm going to make fights on this island." And we're like, "Come on, Dana. Come on, Dana." And now it's totally happening. We saw pictures and videos and people are there. And then, of course, the main event on July 4th, by all means, gets tested for COVID. And I just think how ironic that they made this island. They made UFC 251 to, prevent COVID and to prevent fighters getting sick. And the main event, Gilbert Burns has COVID. I just thought it was like, yes, God, we're listening. We are listening. And then it's been wild too, Taryn. And I don't know if you saw, and of course it was July 4th, so hopefully you didn't, and you were at the lake with your friends and family. But I had it really close sourced, and it was awesome. I think it was literally Ariel Helwani than me. I knew people in the room with Masvidal, and he's taking the test. I literally got a text saying that the fight's on. Midday, 1:30, 2 o'clock, when no one, it was he's like, yeah, there's 7 people in the world that know. I'm like, are you kidding me? He goes, no, it's on. We're doing it. I'm like, holy shit. I just, July 4th, and I was just blown away. Because for one, if you have been listening, I'm a huge Masvidal guy. That's kind of my guy, and I know it's, and probably Taryn, you can probably say this too. You kind of get attracted to some of the fighters and their personal stories, or if you guys have a good conversation. Like, do you have those people too?
Yeah, absolutely. I've had that within Invicta already. The only problem is I feel like the second I get attached to a story in Invicta, they go off and go to the UFC because that's how quick the turnaround is there. But I completely agree. I love the storylines. That's what's, so even more unique about UFC and MMA in general, more than other sports, I think, is the fighters, they have to brand themselves in some ways. So you hear so much more about their personal lives than you might in other team sports, because there's just so many players, so many things going on. Whereas here you can really get into the nitty gritty of each individual athlete's story and what makes them them. So many deep rivalries, and it's a different rivalry when you're going in to fight each other than when you're going to play a different sport. This is a very personal thing. You're going in and you're some see as fighting to the death. And so there's so many more levels of drama, which is what I love about this sport. And, I think to my family, I grew up, in mixed martial arts, but still they didn't, watch mainstream like MMA. And they're like, what is your interest in this? Because this is brutal. And to me, it's so much more of an art, and there's stories. There's just so many layers to it that's my interest in it. It isn't just the technicalities and the brutality. I'm a storyteller. That's what I went to school for. And so that part of it is so intriguing to me, to be able to talk to people and hear all these crazy stories. And obviously this weekend, just crazy things happening. Fight Island is just so ahead of the game with everything. Dana White is pulling out all the stops to get things going, which is something that is unique the UFC can do, because they don't have as many people that they have. It's still a struggle, as you were talking about. There's so many hurdles, and all have to take COVID tests multiple times. In other sports that might not be as possible, if you have a whole football team, what are you going to do? I'm from around Kansas City, so think about this. The Chiefs, they're all practicing together. You have Patrick Mahomes and the quarterback group together. If one of the quarterbacks in the quarterback group gets COVID, it's likely that the other quarterbacks are going to get it as well, because that's their group.
Right.
And so then what do you do if you don't have a quarterback to play? So there's just, I feel like the hurdles that other sports have to go through are going to be a little bit more difficult than what we're seeing with an already difficult situation with UFC and MMA in general getting that going ahead of others. They have a little bit of an advantage there, and it's smart that Dana White is taking advantage of that.
Oh, 100%. You said 9 remarkably smart things there, so I'm going to try to pick some things out. One is, there's definitely rumors out there, a lot of SEC schools like Clemson, who's in the ACC, but Alabama, Auburn. There's already some secrets or rumors out there. They're saying, hey, kids, get together. If you have COVID, come here. Come together. Let's herd this thing out. We're all 22. We're in the best shape of our life. Let's get it now. Let's get it so we don't have it in October, November, December in the season. Imagine if the Chiefs and Mahomes and the quarterbacks, all 3 of them, get it now. They're all in the best shape of their life. We've got, numbers saying 99.9% if you're, in good shape and a decent age, that you're going to be okay. Are you pro that, con that, or is that just whoa, I haven't thought of that yet?
I saw what you were talking about. I saw some SEC school that some kids were getting together, making bets on, they would put money in a jar, and whoever got COVID first would get the money. I don't know. People are going literally insane during this time.
Right.
In my mind, there's so much going on. There's so much information. My priority is getting sports back going. And so in my mind, I'm like, if there's any little thing, I don't know if it's going to make a difference or not, but if there's a chance it's going to make a difference and help sports to be back, Chiefs to be back, I'm a Denver Bronco fan, so Broncos to be back, the sports in my area to be back, because obviously I'm a reporter here, KU, huge, not football, but basketball. That's what I'm thinking of, is I want those things to be back. So if I can do anything, I'll do it, regardless if it's 100% working or not. I'm going to take that chance because I need sports to be back, not only for entertainment, but also for work. It's my job.
Right.
So.
I'm totally with you on that. I literally talk in a mic for a living. So, yeah. And it's so funny you said that too. You said that earlier. I really think it's just one of those things, with every action, there's a reaction, and the quarantine happened and all this was happening. There was just like a lot of fighters home and people. And one of our biggest podcasts that popped was Dean Thomas. He kind of left American Top Team right at the beginning of this. I literally called him that day. He goes, yeah, I'll jump on. And we kind of was the first podcast to kind of have that story. And then the next 4 weeks, we had an episode a day because fighters had nothing to do, and they wanted to communicate and they wanted to see what was going on. So our numbers were like, oh, boom, 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 boom. It was just like the Hulk roller coaster at Islands of Adventure was just like this skyrocket. And we're like, okay, this is cool. We can dig this. So it's pretty funny how, like you said, during this quarantine, things happen like that. The other thing you said was about, rivalries and fighters, how it's different. Usually basketball. Okay, let's go back to Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes usually doesn't get on other podcasts. He's on the Chiefs. He's got a set, money he's going to make, and it's usually, especially football, they kind of want the players to be a little bit more quiet than the next guy. And hey, that's another podcast for another time, I guess. But they're kind of set. In MMA and especially UFC, it's the exact opposite. George Masvidal, who is kind of, the Cinderella guy right now, 2 years ago, was a main card, hey, he's a gatekeeper guy. And, had all this flash to him and had a lot of flavor to him, but just another guy on the roster. He's my favorite mixed martial artist, I can say that. That's who he was. And now he's the biggest name in the roster. What he's making for this fight will just blow people's minds. He's very happy with the payment. So much can change in 600 days in this sport, and that's why I think so many fighters come on so many shows and so many podcasts, because they need to connect. They need their story out. They need people to like them or dislike them or laugh with them or laugh at them, whatever it is. They just need to be something different than just vanilla, right? Like they just need some kind of flavor to them. And Colby Covington 3 years ago was just another guy in the division, and then he was the main guy in the division, and he was pro-Trump, and that was his thing, and he went for it. It's just so wild how, I think in any other sport, mixed martial arts, in 1 year, and even Gilbert Burns is another one. 10 months ago, he was a prelim, really good fighter. Everyone knew how good he was, but he was just a good fighter. He was about to main event the biggest show of the year. It happens quick, and it's really cool and unique to our sport.
I completely agree, and you've seen that. I mean, MMA stars have become international kind of stars in a way. They've transcended the sport, and that's what really brought UFC to the forefront, because people that were really interested, that was kind of, people were interested in it if they were interested in it. Now it's people that are outside, maybe never, that have come into watching these events because it is so mainstream now. And these, you look at the Conor McGregor, the show, the Ronda Rousey, back then the show, it became so much more than just the fights. There was stories outside of it, shows outside of it. Just the drama has completely transcended just the sport and kind of went all out into mainstream celebrity. I love it. Everyone loves a good drama story, and especially in the UFC when it's just like I said, it's different. It's different when you're facing up man to man, woman to woman, and you're going at it. So that's what I've loved. About this sport. For sure.
And like people like you and I, we're gonna order or we're gonna watch UFC 251 kind of regardless. They could have had fighter A versus fighter B, and then fighter X versus fighter Y, and we're going to order the show. But it's when my wife or my uncle, when they call me, they're like, wait a second, is Masvidal going to fight in the main event? Like, he wasn't scheduled, and this fight's in Dubai. Like, how are they going to make this happen? Like, my wife was like, how are they going to get the flight and this and this? Like, that's what attracts people. It's like, that's what we need, is this outside of the middle class, outside of the MMA main. And that's when we get new fans and different fans. And like I loved you throughout Ronda Rousey. I'm a huge Ronda Rousey. I'm a huge component of female sports and a huge component of female MMA, especially now with 2 daughters of my own. It's just like, whatever they want to do in the world. Like, I'm such a, I can't wait till they are the first female president or female strawweight UFC champion, whatever they want to do. And Rousey, like, just broke through that glass ceiling. And yeah, there's some things I don't like, and there's some things that our family members, we do, and how they chew their steak, we don't like. But just like, I feel like people nitpick the very, very top. And, maybe she didn't take the loss the right way, or maybe she doesn't shake hands the way you like her to shake hands. But what she's done for the sport, and what she's done to me, and this is a male saying this, what she's done for females, especially, sporty females across the nation, is like unmatched. I think she's like that Babe Ruth of female MMA.
Exactly. I mean, Invicta even came during that time, and really that gave them a platform to have someone like Ronda Rousey be such the face of mixed martial arts. And then that gave a pathway for all of the female mixed martial artists to follow. And like you were saying, just kind of reaching outside of that already core MMA fan base. And you can't really ask for a better time to do it than right now, when really MMA, outside of golf, which that's kind of a similar, if you don't like golf, you're not going to be watching golf unless you just like to have it on to nap. But MMA, there's really nothing else really mainstream going on right now other than MMA, golf, maybe sprinkle of a few other things. I don't know, maybe bowling. But this and the drama of everything, I mean, going to Dubai to do this on an island, and there's all kinds of the testing, everything now with Masvidal coming in, 6 days notice, has to drop 20 pounds, and the rivalry, you can't think, in my mind, this is going to be a huge platform for people that weren't former MMA fans to come in and get involved and to really fall in love with this sport the way that we have, because one, no competition as far as outside sports to conflict with. Following MMA pages and platforms or not, you're going to be hearing about this, because mainstream sports and news channels are all going to be talking about it because of that drama aspect, and because there's nothing else really conflicting with it.
Oh, it's crazy. It is an absolute Hollywood movie. It is this scenario, I think, happened in Avengers Endgame, and we'll I'm telling you, every podcast we will bring up Avengers. But you said something so important, maybe to the rest of the history of this show. Hopefully, we will do 1,000 episodes together. We will laugh to the bank 10 years from now, be like, remember that first time? So this is a really important question for you, Taryn. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Are you a nap person?
I am a nap person to the fullest. You said nap.
Yeah, yep. Because you mentioned nap and golf, and I'm like, it might work. I'm the exact opposite. I don't think I've taken a nap since I was like 3 years old. And it's like, I'm in my mid-30s now, and I wish when I get up, I don't know how to turn it off. Like, I even, it's funny, we had Laura Senko on a while ago, and she was really, really prominent about saying she takes a lot of CBD oils or even, gummies to help her sleep. And especially how much she travels, and it's not in her own bed. And I was like, okay, let me try it too. And it's funny. It's actually very helpful. So, thank you to Laura Senko. CBD really kind of calms my nerves at night. And it's like when I get up, Taryn, that's it. I'm up to 11 o'clock. I don't know how to take a nap. I can't do it.
See, that's crazy. My mom says when I was a baby that they would lay me down to sleep. And, you have twins. You have 4 kids. So you know that sleep is not always guaranteed.
Oh, right.
She said she would lay me down and that I would just look up and smile at her. I was so happy that she was laying me down to sleep. I have valued sleep and food my whole life, and I will always value sleep and food.
Oh my goodness.
And that will never change.
No, smart woman. I told you guys, Taryn Tempel, an absolute shooting star. So you said food. What's your go-to meal, Green Mile situation? You got 1 meal left on this planet. What are you getting?
That's the crazy thing about this time is I've had so much extra free time to really get into my cooking skills. And so we've been making all kinds of exquisite cuisine, but I think just if I had to choose one last meal, I would go pretty basic, like steak and potatoes, just because it never really gets old to me.
Oh,
and cheese, any kind of cheese.
Yes, cheese on the potato. It's so funny you say that. The whole family, but I think I'm the start of it. I'm like the monarch of. We put Parmesan cheese on everything. I put it on steak, Cheerios. I put it on my boot if I'm really hungry. Like, we literally put Parmesan cheese on everything.
That's how we are too. We made Parmesan crusted steak.
Yeah, of course.
They were so good. I'll shoot you the recipe if you want it, if you're into the grilling thing.
Oh.
I love Parmesan. Really every cheese except for goat cheese. That seems just like a rich person cheese, but I'm not really sure.
One day we'll get there. But yeah, I'm so excited for this event. It's Saturday night. It's such a great card. I love how there's 2 great female fights on it with Rose and Jessica, Paige Van Zandt and Amanda, and then there's 3 championship fights with Jan and Aldo. Finally, to get a bantamweight champion, because we need that, because the bantamweights have been on fire, especially UFC 250 with Sugar Shane O'Malley and Cody No Love and Aljamain Sterling. So we need a champion. You need someone to have the fighters strive for or call out. So that's very vital. I love rematches. Max Holloway, to me, he's the greatest featherweight UFC fighter of all time. So this is a great match. And now, to me, this is you can't make a better main event. The rivalry, the weight class, just what it means. Also, too, there's so much behind-the-scenes stuff with the agencies don't like each other. You can, sometimes I feel like some fighters make up angst towards the other fighter. And, I know behind the scenes that they had a steak dinner 2 nights ago together. And I'm like, oh, man, I just like that. Sometimes I'm too far in the game. These 2 men hate each other. It's legitimately, viral hate. And it's just going to be something different. It really is a different kind of feel now at UFC 251. It's just going to be bananas.
Absolutely. You cut out a little bit at the beginning, but you made a good point there towards the end, talking about, I've seen so many times watching fighters they leading up to the fight, hating each other, spitting in each other's faces at the weigh-ins, and then afterwards, just acting like there was no issue at all. And that's it's smart, because the more hype and drama they put around their fight, the more people are going to watch, the more money they're going to make. And so it makes sense to me, but I'm the same way. I like to see the genuine kind of, not hatred, I guess, but kind of that really dislike for one another. Like when you saw, John Jones and DC after their interview on ESPN was over. I don't know if you've seen that video before. It's so funny to me. Oh, and they're took
talking
them off
to
air,
each other. Yeah.
And they're still talking to each other. And John goes, "You still there, pussy?" And I thought that was so funny. I watched that so many times. That was, when I really got into that rivalry there. And, they're just new rivalries over and over again that make the sport so fresh and so interesting to watch all the time.
Oh, for sure. And it's people And one thing I've learned through now, just doing this for a while and talking with different fighters and seeing the fights and even different organizations, and sooner or later you just can't fake it. Like you can't you try to fake an event like, oh, this is one of the best cards ever and blah, 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 and they're trying to sell it. It's like, no, we're going to see through it. Like, we're going to see, actually, the card's not that great, or the main event's not as good as what you think it is. We're like, it's so funny how us as the consumer now in 2020, like, there's so much information out there. Everyone is so out there, usually on their own social media platforms. Like, we're going to see what's really what. It's just what we are now in 2020.
Exactly. The internet has become a great place, but also a terrifying place.
Yeah.
And that is in just normal life, and also become a huge thing in sports. I mean, just even when I was in high school, social media was not a platform the way that it is now. And there's so many different ways to use it and to get brands out there and to get information out. And so it adds a whole other layer of information / drama / terrifyingness to everything in life.
During my high school days, I had a beeper. Like, there you go. Like, I think that ages us right there.
It's okay, I don't quite feel old, but I'm almost officially in my mid-20s, but I'm getting close to the late 20s. So that's still pretty fresh and young, but I'm starting to feel slightly aged, which I know might sound silly.
Okay, so we have been talking for 38 minutes, and it feels like 5, and I love that. That's going to be awesome for the show. It's so crazy how we try to keep it like in a short, sweet 20, 30 minutes, little, drive to work or a workout or a walk, like you said. And it's amazing how, like a Joe Rogan, their shows are 3 hours, and it's this monster of a, sometimes it takes me multiple days to listen to one, or it's a long trip or a plane ride, the whole way, Kansas to Vegas, whatever it is, for an event. But I do want to kind of end and wrap up in a little bit here, but I definitely want to get to you about your behind the scenes Invicta FC 40. It was last Friday, UFC Fight Pass. Just the venue was awesome. I saw so many pictures and about like the church and about the glass, and tell us about the COVID testing and just kind of behind the scenes takes, and hopefully you have a good story there.
Before I talk about that, I think it's funny that, you're talking about how we're talking so long, but maybe we'll get lucky and somebody will be traveling to Dubai, have quite a long time to listen to something, and they will go ahead and listen to us. So it's okay that we're going a little long today.
So wait, Taryn, so you're saying I got to send this directly to Georgie. That's what you're saying, right? Right to Masvidal, his text from my phone. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Send it over.
There you go.
But you're talking about the church. I mean, it's funny I had someone message me when I posted the venue there, and they're like, fighting in a church. And it's an old church that's not used as a church anymore. It's a police league and kind of like training center, and when we've done weigh-ins and stuff there have been little kids doing little training sessions in there. So it's kind of a community building, but it was beautiful for the event. It wouldn't be the type of venue that you would use if you could have fans, but for this type of thing, it was perfect. It really gave kind of a cool vibe to the night, especially because there wasn't fans. And it was my first live event that I've been able to watch in person in literally 3-4 months. And so for me, that was so exciting. Even though I wasn't on the broadcast, I was working on the production side, but in true 2020 fashion, things started out getting ready for the very first bout of the night. The generator goes out like right before the start.
Right.
And they get back on the headset when the generator is back up and going. They're like, well, it's 2020, but the rest of the night went off without a hitch. And really, we were talking about it after, if there was any time for the generator to go out, I guess it would be right before the first fight, that it would be the best time, because what do you do if the generator goes out in the middle of a fight? I don't know what protocol is there. I know Laura had said that the generator had gone off at a previous event she had worked on, non-Invicta, but So that was really interesting, and that kept things fresh. And one of the other things, the week prior, we all had to get tested. Everyone went up, drove up, some people were already there, but I drove up to Kansas City and got tested pretty easy. It wasn't too stressful. It was easier than I thought it was going to be. And then once everyone was cleared, we were good to go. Everyone had to wear masks the whole time, which I hadn't worn a mask for longer than just being in the grocery store. So I was worried about if that was going to bother me, but really just sitting down, I got used to it quick. But one of the most interesting things that I thought from the event was being able to so clearly hear each of their corners talking to them, because normally even Invicta, which has a huge online following through UFC Fight Pass, there's not a ton of fans at the actual venue, but they're still really loud. You can't usually hear the corners very loud during the fights.
Right.
This almost felt like you were watching a practice, because you could hear every single thing that the corner was telling them and coaching them on, and seeing that translated into the fight, which it was really interesting. And I wondered, from the fighter's perspective, obviously the loss of fans can make a difference because you don't have kind of that cheering going on. But I wonder if being able to clearly hear instruction kind of outweighed that disadvantage. And it was really, I just thought it was really cool to be able to hear that, especially during the co-main, Zapatella. She's a huge wrestling, world-class wrestler, and so there was a lot of instruction coming from her corner on just different positioning, telling her what to do. And especially from someone on the outside that I'm not a world-class wrestler, to be able to really hear that detailed instruction and hear things that I wouldn't normally get to hear during a fight was really cool. And I think that I didn't feel like anything was missing. As far as, I missed the cheering of the fans, but I still didn't feel like the fights lost anything from it.
Right. And we 2-3 weeks ago, Jillian Robertson fought the Apex, and in her corner was Dean Thomas and Hannah Goldie. And if you follow us on the podcast, we're huge Jillian, Dean, and Hannah fans. And Hannah and my wife are really, really good friends. And I saw Hannah with her son's birthday, all this. So I kind of asked Hannah, I was like, how was it with no fans and all that? And they're saying, we loved it. It was more low-key. It was more relaxed. It was more like we got to really listen to our corners and teammates. It felt, because, just anything. Right, you and I are talking. If you and I were at the center stage at Madison Square Garden with 19,000 people, maybe it would take us a little bit to kind of loosen up and to break a laugh and talk about naps. Maybe we wouldn't. So it's pretty weird. It's kind of different. Some people crave it, and some people need 16,000 people, cheering them on, and that's a part of their plan and their game, and some aren't. So it is pretty wild to see your guys' venue. And it looked like, from the pictures I saw from you and Laura, it seemed like it was a small venue, right?
Oh, it was really small.
Okay.
And the other thing that the small venue made really interesting, kind of the same reason of just not having the fans, was that when the fighters were on the side of the cage over by Laura, they were kind of spread out, everyone that was on the color and play-by-play. But when they were over by Laura, because I could kind of hear Laura in my headset, and she would be talking about, what each fighter maybe should be doing in that moment, or just talking about what was going on, and, or this person's in trouble, blah, blah, blah. And it was, to me, I'm like, isn't it kind of weird that they're right over there by her and they can hear her talking about them as they're fighting.
Right.
And it's fun. In my mind, I'm like, if I'm fighting and I hear someone critiquing me 2 feet from me, it would take everything in me not to look over and be like, excuse me. But it's just, I thought that was something that was really funny too, just that you could hear everything going on all at the same time. And so as a viewer, it was a really interesting dynamic, but I'm sure as one of the fighters that it was different, maybe some good and some bad.
No, that's awesome. That's so cool. I love hearing stories and behind-the-scenes stuff and stories there because, you are the only ones that have it. And probably we'll kind of close it with this. It's been great. This is definitely something that's going to work. We're hoping this is the start of something, and you never know, weeks, months, maybe sooner, we'll hopefully, talking to UFC Fight Pass, maybe trying to jump on that. That would be very cool. Bigger audience. People can see us. And we're going to do more visual, too. Like, pretty soon, maybe in the upcoming weeks, we'll get, I'll be in my studio, Taryn. We'll get you wherever you want, and we'll kind of do more of a video show, and, we'll drop it on YouTube and do clips and put it on Instagram and all of that nature. But one of the last things, and it was funny, with Laura Sanko, we kind of mentioned her a couple times, and the first time I had her on, we talked about how she would love to be the first female MMA commentator, and especially for UFC, and she does. Her heart is kind of where Invicta is, and she loves the UFC and doing stuff for ESPN and Contender Series. She loves it, but she would love to be, next to John Anik almost every Saturday. Is that something you would like to do? What's if in 7 years, 6 years, if the world just goes perfectly and Taryn Tempel is blank in 5 years?
Yeah, that's interesting because I think about that kind of thing a lot. And Laura Sanko, I think that role fits her perfect in wanting to go into that. And it's awesome that she has Invicta to be able to practice that and really hone in on her craft. And so then she can continue to do it, in both UFC and Invicta and wherever she wants to go. I think she's done a good job of being grateful to, Shannon and where she started in Invicta and always helping them out when they need her. And that's, something I aspire to do too, is never, forget where I started and where I come from.
Right.
I differ from that in a little bit in that I'm more of a storyteller, and I don't see myself necessarily doing the commentating side of things. I see myself more in the Megan Olivia side, more the kind of the behind the scenes, that I'm interested in telling the stories of the athletes and getting more into that than the technique and critique. Right. I would love to continue to learn, which I have the base from my childhood and learning about this sport, but I got into journalism because I like to learn about people and I like to be able to give them a platform to tell their story. So this is kind of more what I see myself doing. And, I love MMA and I would love to do it for MMA on that scale. And I also, have a desire to do that for football, basketball. I have an interest in a lot of different sports, and I've been lucky to kind of get a taste of all of that so far. So we'll see where that takes me in a few years.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, definitely. And we'll do that too. I didn't kind of think about it till literally right now. We'll get some guests, like other than just you and I, and just kind of talking topical, what happened, over the weekend, or just kind of what's happening in our lives. We'll definitely get some guests. We'll get fighters. We'll get Shannon on the show. We'll get some UFC fight people on the show and just kind of shoot the crap and, let them open up. And sometimes it's great that we definitely here at Fight Bananas, we try to talk different than other shows, and it feels like sometimes it's pretty cool, some of the stories that we do hear from the fighters and why they fight, like you said, and what's next and what's their goals at and all of that. So yeah, we'll definitely open it up. I'm excited. The future looks good.
I'm excited too, and I'm glad that you've done so much with your podcast already, and I'm glad that you've opened it up for me to join in at whatever capacity that is. I'm always happy to hop on, and it's funny, we've never even actually met face to face, but it feels like we're old friends.
Definitely, sooner than later, especially with hopefully these shows are going to start to pop up. There was almost a show that they were going to do a grappling event for UFC Fight Pass, and that kind of didn't work out. But there's definitely going to be a lot of things in the future, and maybe even one of the next Invicta shows, because I'm a huge Invicta FC fan, especially Felicia Spencer came out of there. It's one of the faces of the company. And Megan Cawley just fought there. She was just on our Bet-In podcast talking and recapping Invicta FC. So much. We'll definitely, there will be a time. And anytime you want to travel to the great state of Florida and go to Disney World, you have a place.
I love Disney World. Disney World is one of my favorite places on earth, and I think that's not just for kids; it's for adults too.
Of course. And I'm a Universal Studios guy. I love Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios. It's a little bit more roller coaster and beer, and that's kind of me. But then after all the kids, oh my gosh, I'm a Disney guy. I'm all in. We watch Disney Plus all day, every day. The face on, I guess the word is magic. The magic that it just kind of, goes through the kids. You just can't make it up. It really can't. And that's why I call it. It's a magical place, I guess, right?
There's nothing better than seeing excitement. I don't even have kids yet, but just, my nephew and my niece, seeing the excitement on their faces, there's truly nothing better than seeing that and just seeing their imagination come to life. So I completely agree there. And I also agree that roller coasters and beer is also a great combo. As long as you're not too hard on the beer if you're going to be doing roller coasters.
Right. It's one, then roller coaster one, then another, and then, a couple more, and then you slow down on the rides. That's how it goes usually. But, oh my goodness, this was it. This was the first. I think we got a name intact. I kind of don't want to say it yet. I don't know. I kind of want to keep it until we get, we're working on a visual of it and an artwork of it. So excited. Taryn Tempel, I'm Dave Van Auken. I think you're going to see and hear a lot of us in the near future. And, we're down. Round 1 in the books.
Round 1. Looking forward to many more.
Awesome, Taryn. Thank you. Have a really good day. Be blessed, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Dave. See ya.
Later. All right, guys, I told you so. There we go. First one in the books. We called it kind of round 1 done. That might be a little name on the fly. Taryn Tempel, I'm Dave Van Auken. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for all the sponsors who support us. Another one real quick is Fusion CBD Products. Check out Fusion CBD Products at fusioncbdproducts.com. Check them out on the IG page. They're always putting out great deals, 15% off, 20% off. Always great deals on Instagram. But guys, go check them out at fusioncbdproducts.com. I love their product. Love it. Okay, so check them out. Guys, that's going to be the show. A lot of banter. I think we talked about Disney, naps, and a little Georgie Masvidal. That's it. That's going to be it. We can't wait. A lot of big things are in the works. A lot of moving parts, but just stay with us. We appreciate it. It's going to be another little branch of Fight Bananas here, and I see it. This might be the biggest branch of them all. So super excited here at Fight Bananas. Like I said, I'm Dave Van Auken. Thank you so much for listening. Be safe out there. Have a good week, and we'll talk to you very, very soon. UFC 251 this Saturday night.